Welcome to TypeScript FM, the friendly podcast for TypeScript developers where we bring you news, updates, and interviews from the community with plenty of tomfoolery sprinkled in. I'm your host, Kamran Ayub, and I'm joined by my co-host and best bud, Eric Onerheim. Together, we're the two TypeScript fools. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show, everybody. We've got another TypeScript FM After Dark special.
After dark, it's maximum silliness because we're all tired and the children are sleeping.
That's right. But how was your past week?
Yeah, pretty good. Running is getting back up to speed.
Mm-hmm.
I've run almost every day this last week. I've
That's
been
good.
doing PT
Yeah, that's
for
really
my
good.
shins. Yeah. The wheels are falling off the older I get.
Mm-hmm.
I used to be able to, not do all of the things like stretching and strength and just run. And now if I don't do that, my legs fall off. So yeah, that's been going really well. The pain is like slowly going away. So, and I'm cautiously dialing up the mileage. So I ran 4 miles the last 2 days.
Nice.
So that was pretty good.
Awesome.
It was a little hot today, but otherwise it was pretty good. Yesterday, we had the Verizon outage.
Great Verizon outage?
Yeah.
2025?
Yeah. Like, I didn't realize, but I basically did not have a cell phone from noon till 9 p.m.
Wow.
Yeah, it was that bad.
Wow. So I used to be on Verizon. Now I'm on Mint, it's basically T-Mobile, right? So I didn't notice anything, but I was also in Wisconsin yesterday. But so you didn't have it basically all day.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. Apparently, for all you Verizon peeps out there, I have 2 tips for you. One, you can go and haggle and get them to give you money back, a credit back.
You should.
For the outage. And apparently, some people are getting up to like $30, which is pretty cool. And another tip, I saw this on Reddit and it worked. So I don't know how long it'll work, but if you go to the transfer phone pin page, I immediately got emailed a discount. Like
nice.
it was immediate.
So that's like, I want to transfer my service.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
You want to transfer a phone number to a different provider.
Nice.
So those are my 2 tips of the week regarding the Verizon outage.
It's actually a nice tip for pretty much any kind of big subscription. Most of these providers, they don't want to lose you. So, try canceling and see if you get a discount.
Yeah. What's going on with you?
What's going on with me? Well, like I said, I was in Wisconsin yesterday, but I arrived on Friday. I was at my grandparents' cabin, which is usually the family cabin. Like, we'll go up there every so often, but my grandparents live there and they've had some mobility issues in the past over the summer. So I spent the weekend just helping them with stuff. So they definitely put me to work. I did some gardening. I found a hornet's nest and I killed them all and got rid of it.
Fun.
Yeah, I moved a bunch of stuff, organized the garage a bit, swept the garage, things like that. That's kind of hard to do. I did weed killer, across the lawn and things like that. A lot of maintenance type stuff that's hard to do. So they are recovering really well, but they just need some additional assistance with some stuff. Other than that, last week, I did publish my Quick City course.
Hey.
So if you search on Pluralsight for Quick City Foundations, I'll put a link in the show notes as well. So if you want to learn about Quick City, it is like React, but different. You can go take a look at that. And it's a very simple demo. Like it's a very simple app. It's very introductory. So we don't get into any advanced stuff or anything, but it'll give you a really good overview of what's possible. And then I got 2 MCP courses next, back into the AI topic area. I will be learning a whole bunch about MCP and teaching you how to do it. MCP in practice and advanced MCP.
Yeah, I know the standard joke right now is the S in MCP stands for security. So it'd be really interesting how you touch on, security with MCP.
That's going to be covered. I think a little bit of it's going to be covered in the MCP in practice, but the advanced MCP course, I believe security is going to be one of the primary topics. So, because a lot of the audience who's going to take this course is probably going to be working in enterprises. And so they want to know, how do I actually deploy and use MCP in production with my production services and make sure that it's secure and like we can actually deploy it across the enterprise. So that's my goal, is I'm going to teach you how to do that.
I'll tell you about a use case that we're using, and I think this is a good use case. I'm well known for my disdain for Jira and all of the bean counting that is required by enterprises. And it's no secret how I feel, but like we have a chat bot where you can just ask it to do all of the things in Jira in Slack, and it'll just do it.
Nice.
And it's just like, it's automating tedium, and it does it so well. It can fill out text boxes and drop downs so well. That's just where chef's kiss. That's such a great use case.
Yeah, I don't know what the demo app is going to be, but I think it's going to be something with chat ops, because that is a really good use case for, one, LLMs, because no two people say the same thing in the same way every single time. So LLMs are really good at figuring out intent and then translating that to like a function call that goes and does stuff, gets data from an MCP server, and then, spits it back out to you. So chat ops is a really good use case, I think. So very likely that that's going to be the demo, but not sure.
Yeah. Super cool. Well, we got news.
We got some news for August 25th, the week of August 25th, 2025. Why don't we start with some quick TSGo news? Really, there was just two things worth mentioning, two notable changes. One, they added F2 rename functionality to the language server protocol. Now, I don't know if that means you can actually use F2 rename in the IDE, but they added support for it to the protocol. And then they also enhanced find all references. So I guess now it supports module imports, exports, contextually typed object literals, and destructuring patterns, which is kind of nice, I guess. So if you're destructuring something and you want to hit F12 on the thing that you're destructuring, now it'll find all the references for that. So that's pretty neat.
Yeah, that's super cool. And in fact, I think those are like the things that I needed for my own workflow. I think all of the LSP in TSGo has all of the things that I need now. So
it's definitely getting there. Yep.
It's definitely at a point where I might start incorporating it into my daily workflow.
Yes. Hey, you saw some stuff for TS6. Now so just to be clear for the audience, TS7 is going to be TS native, right?
That's right.
And then TS6 is still the next major release of the quote-unquote legacy TypeScript code base. So TS6 will be the last major release of the current branch of code. And then TypeScript 7 is going to be the new native port. So that'll have its own breaking changes. But there's some cool stuff coming to TS6 in the meantime.
Yeah. Some of the cool stuff that we're seeing is a bunch of breaking change to TSConfig to like deprecate some things that are not really necessary anymore, simplify the defaults, and kind of set us up to be in a good space for TS7. One of the latest pitches is to enable strict type checking modes by default. This was not necessarily the case, depending on which mode you are. And we do have a small correction. We said that Daniel Rosenwasser had a PR to make the change to strict by default, the -- strict flag on the command line by default. It's actually just an issue. We were just very excited.
Yeah, we were so optimistic that I just read it as he opened a PR, but no, it was an issue. So he's proposing this, but let's hope that there is a PR in the future.
Yeah, and I think that would be a good change. That just feels like a potential foot gun where other parts of TypeScript might operate more strictly by default in the current mode. Yeah, so a lot of TSConfig changes are likely to be in our future for TS6.
That's nice. Do you have an idea of what some of those changes are beyond the default strictness?
Okay, so there's a few. So looking at, we should have a link to this. This is the TypeScript 6 milestone in GitHub. But looking at this on the roadmap, there's the -s strict, which we talked about. One of the things that it's going to change is lib replacement is going to be switched to false by default. We're going to assume use strict everywhere, which is you should. That's like a ES3 thing or JavaScript 3 thing.
And you're talking about the use strict directive that you would put in your like just regular vanilla JS module.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. They're going to remove support for using modules in places of namespaces. That's not really a TSConfig thing. Let's see. They're going to remove module resolution classic. They're going to remove module resolution node 10. They're going to remove the targets AMD, System.js, and UMD, which will be mostly good. I still use UMD, but that's because of reasons. They're going to change the default target to ESNext.
Nice.
This is interesting. They're going to error in the command line if a TSConfig is present and you specify options, which is going to be good. So like you're like, hey, you have this TSConfig here. Did you mean to do that? Which will be pretty cool.
Nice.
They're going to deprecate the ES5 target. ES 2015 will be the lowest target. That's otherwise known as ES6. When things got good.
Yes.
Assuming the root dir is the current directory, which is good. Yeah, so I'll include this issue, TypeScript issue 54-500. Easy to remember. We'll include that in the show notes, but that's a kind of a summary of all of the deprecations they're thinking about for TS6.
Awesome. So the too long didn't read is basically we're making the TSConfig not only simpler, but also just getting rid of all the cruft that's built up over the last decade.
Yeah. A lot of things have evolved, and there's a lot of stuff in there that you don't want to use.
Yeah. I think this is really good because one of the big things that always comes up in the subreddit, and then also I've seen on Blue Sky plenty of times, is that for newcomers, the TSConfig can be a bear to like understand. So the less newcomers or other people have to deal with it, I think the better.
Awesome. Well, we have a new minor version of Node 2219, which dropped a couple notable changes.
Yeah, and to be clear, Node 22.19 is the latest LTS stable release.
That's correct.
There was also these same changes in the 24 branch.
Oh yeah, that's right.
But for LTS folks, this could be really interesting for you. A couple notable changes that we saw. One is, okay, Eric, you work at a fairly decent-sized enterprise. I worked at a Fortune 500. There's always this weird stuff that we have to do with CA certificates, which are like the certificate authority stuff, because the enterprise issues its own enterprise certificates, and you have to get Node to trust it. Okay. We always had to do weird stuff, whenever we set up our developer machines, where you had to like edit an environment variable, you had to download the CA bundle and add it to the path, all that kind of stuff. Guess what? For 22.19, they added a new API that lets you programmatically add, remove, or replace the CA bundle used for TLS. So the main use case here that's called out in the pull request is this is going to be really useful for corporate infrastructure and IT ops. And I can attest to that. So jump for joy, the DevOps team.
Yeah. Like I know at least the last few companies I've worked at, like there's a lot of certs issued from the internal private key infrastructure, and those aren't in a public certificate authority. So you provide your own in your corporate network. But a lot of your internal services are protected with these.
So that is good news. The other thing that is notable is that WASM import support has been unflagged. So you no longer need to pass -- experimental WASM modules.
Whoo.
Yeah. And so just quoting from the PR, by unflagging, this will enable build tools to target source phase imports for Node.js as an output format, providing immediate benefit to WASM consumers in enabling more seamless interoperability between JS and WASM modules. So I think there's two parts to this. One, it's going to make CI/CD build scripts a lot more easy. You don't have to like pass extra flags to your script, so it'll clean them up. But second, we were discussing this offline when we first saw this because I was not sure what did it mean when they said source phase imports versus instance phase imports. And dear listener, you might be wondering the same thing. What's the difference between a source phase import and an instance phase import with WASM? So if you imagine importing just a regular module, just a regular JavaScript module, this you can think of as like an instance where Node.js takes care of creating that module context for you and importing it so that you can use it right away. With WASM, you can do that. So you can import your .wasm file and it's imported like a regular imported module. That's called instance phase imports.
Which is super slick.
Yes.
Unless you don't want that.
Unless you don't want that. So when you don't want that, you want to use a source phase import. And I've never seen this before, but this is where you add another keyword after import. You say import source and then the WASM module. And then what you do is you get a variable back and you can instantiate it using await WebAssembly.instantiate. So this is for like custom instantiation. And we were talking about when you might want to use this. And I think one of the examples was WASI, like when you want to customize some of the bindings. I don't know if you can explain that better than I can.
No, that's pretty much exactly right. So like when you instantiate a WebAssembly module, you have a lot of options you can poke. And then some of them is like, oh, I want to expose specific functions to my WebAssembly context so that I can, poke at them from WebAssembly because WebAssembly wouldn't have access to those things. And one of the powerful ones is the WASI, which is a standard for interacting with like operating system level stuff. So you can write files and do like, you can poke at machines, you can poke at graphics, that kind of stuff from WebAssembly, which is super powerful. So you might want to do that.
Yeah. So you found, or I think this was linked to in the PR, there's a TC39 proposal called source phase imports. So if you want to learn more about that I'd never seen before. So that was kind of cool to sort of learn about that.
Yeah. It has a lot of like further implications with the source phase imports, specifically around like static and dynamic analysis of source code. So they also have a dynamic version of it. So you can do like a wait import dot source to get the same kind of, you remember like you can do dynamic imports in a similar syntax. Well, they're adding this, import dot source to do the same thing dynamically. And you can do cool stuff and manipulate code that you're importing or inspect it and do stuff to it.
I think this is the second keyword that since starting TypeScript FM, this is the second keyword I've learned about because the first one was import attributes, and I had never seen that before. And now I had not seen source phase imports before either, but now I know. And now you know, dear listener. Cool. Moving on to RsPack. You might recall in, I think, the last episode, we talked about RsPack team announcing RsLint. Well, they also came out with a new release of RsPack, and this is RsPack 1.5. So if you take a look at the Blue Sky post, they just have a really quick summary. So I'll just read from it. Barrel file optimization. So remember, a barrel file is where you have like a module where it's just all exports. You're just exporting stuff from other modules like export star from blah, blah, blah. So I guess there's some barrel file optimization. Faster file system watcher. That's nice. Smaller installation size. Also good. Extending RsPack with Rust. So that, to me, sounds like you can actually write Rust plugins for RsPack. So that's cool. And then type re-export analysis. I feel like we should know more about that because that seems related to TypeScript.
All right. So I'm looking at their blog post for this. In previous versions of RsPack, if you re-exported a type without adding the type modifier, RsPack would throw a warning such as export my type, re-exported as my type was not found. And this was because RsPack processed each module in isolation. As a result, a type export could be mistakenly treated as a value. So since there was no corresponding value, a warning was triggered. So RsPack 1.5 introduces a flag in the experiments config type re-exports presence option, which improves the detection of these options. So that verbiage makes me seem like it's not like 100% yet, or they're not 100% confident yet, which is why it's in the experiments. But this is pretty neat. This is just, it looks like this was like in the past, this was just a warning, and it was like a false positive. So this looks like it'll reduce false positives in your builds.
Yeah. I think this was sort of like a new thing, and you might actually deal with this more now that Node has type stripping, because you do have to have the type modifier on an import if you're just importing a type not as a value, but just to use as a type.
Mm-hmm.
So I have never tried to re-export one of those imported types, I guess. But if you have, I guess this was an issue with RsPack. So I think this is good. It's nice that you don't have to like worry about it, because otherwise you'd have to know like, oh, I'm re-exporting a type that did not have a type modifier. So I have to like go and add type modifiers to stuff before I can re-export it. So it seems like it's more overhead that this removes if you enable this option.
Yeah. And if you think about it, because it's a type, it would have evaporated at runtime anyway. So it wouldn't have been a problem, but it just reduces noise.
Cool. You've got some stuff from Deno and like the trademark stuff, don't you?
I do. So Deno is launching a GoFundMe to cover legal fees to free the JavaScript trademark from Oracle. They need about $200K to make full use of the discovery phase in the JavaScript trademark cancellation petition. So I threw in a little bit of cheddar. I think it's probably worth it. And I think on their post here, they will donate any extra to EFF, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Nice.
Yep. They'll donate any extra to the Electronic Frontier Foundation, which is a great organization that goes and tries to bring justice to technology.
Yes.
And ethics to technology.
Yep.
So they do good work. And I think that this is a good fight for us here in the web. We need to rend this trademark from Oracle.
Yes, that's nice. So you should go check that out. And if you feel compelled, then you can contribute some moolah to help with this legal battle, because we want to free JavaScript. Hashtag free JavaScript.
Hashtag free JavaScript. Last up, we have a security issue that hit NX, which was wild. This is a supply chain attack against the NX NPM packages that used AI CLI tools to move laterally, steal credentials like crypto wallets, exfiltrate data, do all kinds of wild stuff. So this is like the MCP stands for security, but like these like agentic tools on your machines have a lot of ability to do things, and they were able to do this to move laterally on a system. So this is a new attack vector I don't think we've really considered before. Now, certainly as new technology, hits the scene, you start to see it being incorporated into malware. Like we saw this with NPM scripts, and I think we still do with NPM scripts. And there's a constant battle. Socket.dev has a great write-up on the whole bit, including all of the vulnerable package versions. If you are using NX, you should go and check this and make sure that you are not on a vulnerable version, or you don't have a vulnerable version installed on your machine that can talk to any AI CLI tools you have installed.
Yep.
Yeah, this looks pretty comprehensive. So definitely check that out. Definitely go update your NX. Definitely go and double check you're not in this affected category.
I don't use any AI tools from the command line or install them globally as a CLI like that, because like I don't do Claude code. I don't have that type of stuff. But I think if you go, actually we should check. If you go to Claude code, probably my guess is that the install command is like npm install -g. I want to see. Yep, there it is. Standard installation. To install Claude code, run the following command: npm install -g anthropic blah 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 Claude code. So there you go. So by default, it's not like your fault. You're installing these AI tools so that you can call them anywhere on your system. But so can other malicious packages or scripts can call these AI tools from anywhere on your system.
And arguably, this is like a super powerful vector because now malware authors don't need to be software engineers.
Yep, they just do it in plain language.
Yeah.
And it can be customized to whatever system it is.
Yeah, like it makes writing the malware, I think, a lot easier. I imagine if you can just ask the AI agent to go scan your target's machine and deliver credentials to you.
Ooh, yikes.
Yeah, so woof, I read this. There's also a Hacker News article that we'll link that has kind of the overall story and the different timing and waves of the attacks that went through the wild. So woof.
All right. Well, after that bummer, let's move on to some highlights.
Community highlights.
Yeah. Actually, let's start with SquiggleConf because that's coming up soon. That's September 18th and 19th. And you do have to attend in person in Boston. But we had Josh on earlier a few weeks ago. And I believe he said that they're going to record the sessions. So those will be posted after the event in case you can't go. But notably, Jake Bailey from the TypeScript team, who just spoke at a GopherCon, will also be speaking at SquiggleConf about why and how we ported TypeScript to Go. So definitely looking forward to that.
Yeah, I will be consuming that media as soon as it is available to me.
That's right.
And I'll probably be DMing Jake. I'll be like, hey, do you have a copy that I can watch? Because I need this.
Yep, that's right. Okay, next up, we actually have a case study for you this is from calm.com, that's CALM.com, how we migrated our RusJS monorepo to Node type stripping. So if you've been on the fence for this Node type stripping thing seems cool, but I'm not sure if we can migrate our entire code base to it, we don't have a case study to learn from, this is one that you can refer to, okay? So I think some of the interesting things that they talked about, one, because you don't have to move to ESM to use type stripping, but you probably want to.
Mm-hmm.
And in the author's words, he said that it felt like a big step backwards, if we migrated to type stripping without also just migrating to ESM.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing with ESM, though, is that you can't mutate modules. So for them, the biggest blocker was actually their stubbing and spine infrastructure, which was powered by signon.js. So that would just throw an error in ESM world because you can't modify the module that gets stubbed. So you can read the blog post for how they went through it, but they basically used a pattern where they did an incremental migration and they tackled it one problem set at a time. And then they added custom or built-in ESLint rules to enforce that so that further changes to the code base didn't, regress. And I think Josh Goldberg is dancing a jig right now hearing that, because that's a super good use case for linting, which we didn't even talk about that use case of enforcing during a migration, making sure that things are kept the same.
Yep. Yeah, you don't backslide.
Yep. Yeah, and it's really funny. They actually have a section in the blog post that's a full block quote, so you can go check it out. And you basically now have a case study, and they have a quote where you can say, here's what you can tell your manager. And then he has an exact quote that you can copy and paste for why you should migrate to TypeScript and Node type stripping.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, you should go check that out.
Yeah, and I'll add some further color. This is exactly the way you want to do a big migration.
Mm-hmm.
You want, at the end of the day, to have working software and be able to still ship features.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to sit and be chewing on a migration for months, weeks or months or years before you can deliver value. You need to be able to move incrementally.
That's right. I don't want to bury the lead on what the actual outcome was, but their quote from the blog post said, you can expect a 30 to 40% decrease in local development tasks, as well as at least a few minutes in our CI pipelines. Migrating to node type stripping will help you ship features, address bugs faster, and improve many developer productivity metrics that influence overall software engineer happiness. And that makes sense. So there's no build step that you have to go through. The other thing, obviously, that they did talk about is that you do have to refactor your code to support erasable syntax. So he goes through what some of those steps were that they had to do.
All right. Next up, we have Axel's Corner.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Axel has been on a tear and has been releasing blog posts one after the other. The first one I want to talk about is related to the Oracle trademark issue. He dives deep into other solutions to solving the problem past getting Oracle to release the trademark. One of them is, what if we just pick a new name? Like, what if we call like WebScript or LiveScript or, heaven forbid, ECMAScript, or maybe we call it JoyScript or JiveScript. All of those, great suggestions, certainly. The other one is maybe not using a name. Maybe we just call it the JS standard, or maybe we just call it JS, or maybe it's just JS everywhere. There was a reason why in the 2010s, Chris Williams created the community logo for JavaScript, and he deliberately called it the JS logo, was to sidestep the Oracle trademark issue. But yeah, great read. Definitely check it out. There's a lot of humor injected into the blog post. It made me chuckle.
Nice. I was going to say that I don't know how practical it would be to rename the language. There's just so much entrenchment, right?
Yeah. I'd be okay with JS. Like it's just called JS. It's just JS.
That's fine with me. I mean, that's basically what we call it anyway.
Yeah, I don't think I say the word JavaScript very often.
Mm-hmm.
Well, except for this podcast.
Yep, that's right. What other articles did he have?
Yeah, he continued his learning development series, including a post on web servers, which is super useful, especially, again, if you're getting started in your learning web development for the first time. Definitely check out this web series. He's got one on web servers. He's got one talking about JavaScript exceptions. He also has a great blog post on JSON files and processing files in Node. And then also, this one might be a new one for all you folks that started in the Stone Ages like we did with JavaScript, but JavaScript maps.
Like Google Maps.
Like not Google Maps, but this has become my go-to tool for solving problems. I use JavaScript maps literally for everything. If you were started in the old times, you might just be doing object keys and stuff to do things that maps and sets can do. Definitely check out maps and sets. They're way faster and for a lot of reasons, but they are awesome.
And use my package for guarding maps and sets if you want to, if you're using TypeScript.
For sure. Yep. Check it out. It's a very thorough blog post about maps in particular and how to use them. Super great. Next up, we have Vitest 4 Beta 9.
Wait. 4? Did we miss that?
No, we didn't. It's still in beta.
Okay.
But they're posting up some pretty impressive numbers for the Beta 9 of what will be Vitest 4. Currently, we're on 320-something, 30-something. But on average, this version of Vitest now takes 25 less time to start a test. And due to parallelization, the overall time is improved quite a bit. And I think they had like some wild numbers being posted here.
Did you say 25 times less?
25% less time.
Okay, 25% less time. Gotcha.
Yeah, but they're posting up some pretty wild speed improvements across the board, which is going to be great for me because all of our tests are now in Vitest.
So one of the commits I saw, and this I think was also featured in another Blue Sky post, someone was talking about, maybe it was this person, that setting process.title actually is pretty slow. And so they remove that so they don't set process.title anymore. And that's sped up considerably.
Yeah. Super cool. Yeah. But definitely something to keep an eye out. And we will be very loud when Vitest 4 actually drops.
Yes. Yep.
But look forward to performance improvements.
Sounds good. I saw a post from Colin Hacks, the creator of Zod, and he was talking about Zod 4.1. So this is a recent minor release, and he's talking about its flagship feature called Codecs.
Ooh.
So I'm just going to sort of paraphrase what the Blue Sky thread is, and I will link to the Blue Sky thread so you can actually see the code. But z.codec is a new API for defining bidirectional transformations in Zod. So imagine that you want to do string to date. So you can give it a date type and you get an ISO string back. So you can define a codec where you can say my input type needs to be a date time formatted string, and I want a date back, a date type back. And so it gives you forward parsing and reverse parsing, encode and decode. So what's cool about this is that it takes care of all the TypeScript typing for you. So if you try to pass like 1, 2, 3, 4 instead of a string, it's like argument of type number is not assignable to parameter of type date. So he says that the use case for this is when you're mapping data between two different domains. For instance, when converting data in your Node.js backend from a rich JavaScript representation like dates, bigints, maps, sets, etc., into a JSON serializable format. So there you want to maybe transform your dates into ISO date times. You want to change your maps and sets into arrays, etc. And so that's really cool. And so there are, I think, 16 codecs that ship with 4.1. And he says you are encouraged to copy, paste, and customize them as needed. So you should definitely go check that out if you're a Zod user.
Yeah. Some of them that I think I will probably be using very quickly is UTF-8 to bytes and bytes to UTF-8. And then also hex to bytes. I'm a weirdo. I use those a lot.
Yep, I feel you. Okay, I saw another thing cross my feed on Blue Sky. One of the contributors to Preact actually found a TypeScript typing bug that affected other React projects like Next.js with JSX typing. And so they actually fixed it in Preact, but then they also went and proposed and fixed the bug in the other frameworks. So I thought that was pretty cool. And that's a community member, Remco, did that. Salute. Thank you for doing that. Just going above the call of duty and not just fixing Preact, but going forward and fixing JSX for typing the other stuff too.
Speaking of JSX, TypedRocks, the YouTuber, has a great video about how they replaced 100+ React types with 3 lines of code to get the same type safety. It's actually a pretty cool video about their process of like going through the existing types and how to clean them up. And like with modern TypeScript, make all of these old type definitions go away and make them equivalently powerful.
Nice.
So definitely check that out. TypedRocks YouTube video. I love this YouTuber. I saw him in person in Oslo giving his talk. He is very sharp.
Yeah, and we've featured him several times on the podcast. We should actually just invite him.
We should. Yeah, he's great.
Let's get him on here.
Yeah, Christian's great.
Cool. Yeah, you should go check that out. That sounds really cool. You know what that's like? It's like, here's how to refactor your types.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's neat. So not just refactor your code, your logic, but refactor your types.
Yeah. Well, for my NVim heads out there, I have some good news. Some people are already experimenting with the existing TSGo LSP to add NVim LSP support for TSGo.
Your fellow Neovim dandies.
My Neovim peeps, this community member, James, is using the nvim-lsp config and the TSLS wrapper and using Vim LSP enable TSGo to make it happen. I imagine there is a lot of details in there that they did not share, but I'm excited to try. So I'm going to try to get this running and stay tuned.
Yeah, report back. Excellent. We got 2 library watches for you. 2 things that actually are super, super helpful. One is called csv-utils, and this was released not this past week, but actually back in May was the latest release. But it was one of the top posts in the subreddit this week. This is helpful utilities for working with CSV files or arrays of objects, all in TypeScript. So that's pretty cool. We work with CSV files all the time. I mean, this is great. So you should definitely go use this. And then the second library watch is called contrastrast. And this is a library to determine text contrast based on WCAG standards. WCAG, which is the accessibility guidelines. And this is a comprehensive TypeScript Deno library for color manipulation, parsing, conversion, and accessibility analysis. So it helps you create color combinations and analyze contrast ratios. So it has multi-format parsing. It's got WCAG 2.1, contrast ratio calculations and compliance checking, color analysis, format conversion. You can convert between hex, RGB, and HSL. And of course, full TypeScript support with comprehensive type definitions. And I think you were telling me that you're going to use this immediately.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I need this. I need both of these. I deal with very large CSVs on a daily, and I deal with contrast requirements on the daily. Since we build educational software, turns out you need to do these things.
Yeah. This actually seems really, really cool for game dev too, because it makes it a lot easier to convert between different colors. And then you can say like color.isLight or color.isDark. And so you could do that thing where if it is too dark, you change the color so that it's light, so that you could have dynamic colors. You kind of have seen that before for like backgrounds where maybe it's a user generated background, and then the font for color changes depending on if it's light or dark.
Nice. And next up, we have a Void Zero, a case study about how Plaid cut their build times by 97% by migrating from roll up to roll down, which is wild. That's a
huge.
Wild amount. So, and it turns out it wasn't that difficult according to this case study. It sounds like they made a couple small changes. I think the most heinous thing they had to do was they imported roll down as roll up from roll down. I think that was the most heinous thing they had to do in here.
So that they could just use the same name.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. If you remember, they actually had a case study with Deno because they migrated a whole bunch of their services to Deno Deploy 2. So I guess you could say that Plaid's been on a roll down. Sorry, dad joke. All right. Anyway, Framework Watch. Have you ever heard of the framework called Runner?
I haven't.
Neither had I, but I did see this on Reddit, and they just released a new V4. So you know about Next.js. You probably heard about some other, big JavaScript frameworks, Svelte, Vue, et cetera, et cetera. This one is a TypeScript first framework, and it is quote unquote obsessed with type safety and functional design patterns. And so that's definitely like a niche within the TypeScript community that is probably going to be really happy to hear about that. And so if you like functional design patterns and you want a framework that is built with type safety in mind, this could be a good option. And it's more like it provides utility functions that can like wrap stuff. So one of the examples is that you can like use Express and you can build on top of it, but they've got production grade utilities and helpers. Like for example, dependency injection. They've got a system for that, events, middleware, and lots more. So anyway, you can go check that out if that sounds interesting.
Well, this is cool. This kind of looks like a really powerful, even like a workflow builder is what their example looks like.
Yeah, I would classify it as almost like you want to build your own server. So like you don't want to be locked into like a vendor. I feel like Runner might be a good option. So like you want to build your own Next.js, but you don't want to be locked into Vercel. You could probably build your own Next.js with Runner.
Yeah, this looks really cool.
Yeah.
Definitely going to check it out.
Cool. You found a library too.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of Ripple?
Ripple. No.
And I'm not talking about the cryptocurrency. I'm talking about the elegant TypeScript UI framework.
Oh, well, that's cool.
Yeah. This looks like Svelte and React had a baby, and a new web framework fell out. It looks very, very similar to both in a lot of ways. A lot of the syntax is reminiscent of React, but also very reminiscent of Svelte runes with the magic $sign for reactive variables. Very interesting stuff. I read through their example. Looked kind of neat. I don't know if it's ready for production yet, but it was definitely an interesting read. So go check it out.
Yeah, this is really interesting because it's not it is sort of like JSX, but you create .ripple files. And so like to define a component, you don't do like function, button. You actually do component button. So you use the component keyword. So this is very interesting. It says like these are similar to functions in that they have props, but crucially, they allow for a JSX-like syntax to be defined alongside standard TypeScript. That means you don't return JSX like in other frameworks, but you instead use it like a JavaScript statement. So that's really neat.
Cool. And I think you found a joke that on Blue Sky.
Yes, let me tell you the joke. I don't like that TypeScript allows you to specify that an object satisfies a given type. That's none of my business. Oh, that's pretty funny.
Yeah, I like that.
That was from Philan website. So thank you, Philan, for posting that. That made me chuckle. We actually do have a secret of the handbook.
Yeah,
today.
This one came out of our Discord. And it turns out the declarationMap config option in your TSConfig, it significantly speeds up project references in IDEs. And in the documentation, it says you should strongly consider turning this on if you're using project references. It should just say like, you should just have this on.
Yep.
You should just have this on.
Yep. So one of our contributors was trying project references out in a monorepo, and the build was fast, like the -b, TSC-b, fast. But every time he would make an update in one of the packages, VS Code would take a hot few seconds to like update and reflect the latest source code that he changed. So what declarationMap does is actually generates a source map for d.ts files, which map back to the original source file. And it says that this will allow editors such as VS Code to go to the original TS file when using features like go to definition. And it doesn't necessarily say that it will speed it up, but it significantly speeds it up. He said he hasn't had any problems since enabling that. That was sort of the magic option to enable. So just remember, using project references, enable declarationMap config option.
Yes. Do it.
Nice.
We got some cool links. I only have one this week, but this one was something I encountered while watching like a T-sodding stream. He's using MuJS for some scripting. And this is very similar, it looks like, in concept to like Quick.js. It's like an embeddable JavaScript, like little runtime that you can put in whatever you need to put it in. It's portable, it's embeddable. It's written in C. It's a single C file again. In their homepage, it's a lightweight JavaScript interpreter designed for embedding in other software to extend them with scripting capabilities. It's designed with a focus on small size, correctness, simplicity, and it's written in portable C. You know what? That's the same as Lua. So if you were like, I use Lua as a scripting thing in my various whatevers, and you like JavaScript, this might be a thing to look at, like this or Quick.js, go ahead and embed JavaScript in there as a way of doing scripting. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, that's how tiled plugins are written, because it's a C++ project, but they use JavaScript to write extensions.
Cool. Yeah, that's pretty neat. I was going to ask, because you've mentioned Quick.js before as a similar way to embed scripting capability in C apps. Is that right?
Or C++. I mean,
C++?
It's a ISO C, so you can
kind
of just build it into anything.
So this is basically like you could use MuJS also?
Yeah, it looks like it.
Okay.
Now, I don't know how they stack up, but it's definitely an option to take a look at.
Sure. Okay. Cool. Sounds good. I've got a couple cool links. You talked about EFF, the Electronic Frontier Foundation. And if anyone is familiar with Cory Doctorow's work, that's basically all he's been doing for the past few decades. He's been fighting the good fight. He's got a new book coming out. I can't say it on the podcast because it has the S word in it, but you can maybe guess what it is if you know his work, because you've probably heard the term that he's coined. But anyway, you should go check out pluralistic.net, which is his blog, and he's got a link to his Kickstarter for his new book. And I backed it so that I could get the different versions, But he's not going through Audible, not going through Amazon. That's what the book is about fighting against those platforms. And so he's done a Kickstarter, and it is way more than paid for itself. So it's way past what it needs. So it looks like it's going to be pretty popular. But that's the way to get the book pre-sale. And so what he's actually doing is he's doing a pre-sale so that it can pay for the book, and then he'll release it later on Audible, I think for free or something like that, so that he's not locked in. So it's like, it's a way to fight against these platforms. You get paid as an independent author before you get locked in to like using Audible.
He talks about this, and I think in a few podcasts where he's been on, but he talks about how they have some really shifty business practices to basically control the whole audiobook market.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, it ain't good. We canceled our Audible subscription. Libraries, by the way, public libraries have apps that you can use. We use one called Libby, and you can borrow audiobooks using Libby. So that is what we do instead. Second cool link I've got is the creator of Super Smash, well, the game designer who worked on Super Smash Bros. And Kirby, also published like over 200 videos or something on YouTube for free on game design. And this is like a really, really cool resource. I probably watched 4 or 5 collections so far. This is a resource that just keeps coming up because in our game dev Excalibur Discord, people are doing game dev, and I'm always like, hey, you should check this out because there's so much gold in this. It's like, do you want to learn how to design like a Nintendo game designer? You should watch these. They're very, very good.
I haven't yet watched them, so I'm probably gonna like watch some of them here before I pass out.
Yeah, they're fun. They're just really fun to watch. He hired a professional editing firm to do all the editing. So it's really cool. And if you're also kind of interested in the backstory, he also has videos on his publishing process and how he came to do it and why he did it, because he's like crazy busy. And so the only way he was able to do it was because he was between games, and he had like 3 months. And so in those 3 months, he just like powered through this and did it all and recorded it face to camera and everything. So really, really neat.
I wish I had that level of like, one, I wish I had 3 months in between things. And also I wish I had the power and energy to record videos, like that many videos.
You can tell he knows how to manage a project, because this was a project, that's for sure.
Wow.
That's cool. Anyway, yeah, I mean, what's your overall takeaway? Our Minnesota long goodbye.
The long goodbye for me is, I think TypeScript has a bright future here. Like, I'm seeing a lot of stuff come together here that's making me really excited.
Mm-hmm.
Like the TS6 stuff that they're doing to kind of clean things up and make it ready for the kind of the modern web. But TSGo is looking very exciting, especially around LSPs. I'm excited for that to be part of my workflow. I think the tool explosion that we're seeing here, all kind of around TypeScript, is kind of just tacit agreement that this is the way that we're going.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It looks pretty cool. I'm just excited. I think that's my takeaway. I'm just excited. Like, all of the stuff here looks exciting.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, this is all sort of like the stuff catching up to the web platform, like all the tools that we're using. All this, what it feels like? What it feels like is we're going from IE6 to Chrome. Where like, hey, all these hacks and stuff we had to do with stuff to make things work in IE6. And, in this case, we're talking about TypeScript, all these config things I got to run through, all these build configs I got to mess with, all that's just going to go away. And it's going to just work. And it's going to be fast.
It's going to be Chrome. Remember, the future is plated in Chrome.
Yeah.
Remember the SpongeBob episode?
That's funny. So, it'll be interesting to see where we go from here. Once everybody's build times are cut by 97%, like then what are we going to do next? So it'll be pretty interesting, I think, to see.
Today I learned source phase imports are a thing. Like, I had no idea that was a thing.
Yeah, me too. Actually, as far as like a practical takeaway, that was mine. Like, we need to do kind of a deep dive into WASM in general, and specifically how WASM works with TypeScript, because I think there's probably some nuances there that even we're not familiar with. So if anyone's listening that is like a WASM expert and uses TypeScript, come on the podcast. We can learn from you. But anyway, source phase imports. I had no idea that was a thing.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe we can get Rob Palmer.
Hint, hint.
He seems to know the inside track on these things, being a co-chair on TC39.
Yep. Yeah. Maybe we'll have some news in that regard sometime soon. Oh, I've said too much. Someone's breaking down the door. They're coming in. Oh my God.
They're coming.
I gotta go. I'm sorry. Hi, everyone. This is Kamran. I just wanted to thank you for listening to the show, and we hope you enjoyed the episode. If you want to see the show notes, you can check your podcast player or go to typescript.fm, where you'll see a list of all the episodes. If you enjoyed the show, tell your friends, and please rate it on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, because that's how the show grows and gets discovered by more people. If you want to suggest news or a project that should be covered, or just want to say hi, email us at feedback@typescript.fm. If you want to follow us on social, we're both active on Blue Sky. I'm at comronicus.com, and Eric is at ericownerheim.com. You can also follow the show directly at typescript.fm.